It began with a flicker. At 3:17 a.m. UTC, a dormant satellite, an old Voyager II deep space probe once thought lost, pinged Earth with a strange data packet. No coordinates, no message, just a repeating signal that resembled Earth's own hydrogen frequency beacon, a signal that had been echoed back. Within hours, observatories across the globe picked it up. Astronomers danced in control rooms, social media exploded, and politicians scrambled for airtime. Humanity wasn't alone. The United Nations convened an emergency session. Every major government sent envoys, and private corporations offered to bankroll entire missions just for naming rights. For the first time in decades, Earth seemed united. Hope surged. That lasted exactly 48 hours. Then came the response. Every screen on the planet, every monitor, TV, phone, billboard, even smart refrigerators, flickered to life. The feed was hijacked by a signal no one could block. Not military firewalls, not corporate countermeasures. Nothing worked. And on those screens appeared a stage. It was circular, gleaming with an iridescent material that shimmered like liquid starlight. Floating above it were dozens of creatures, alien forms with eyes like plasma orbs, skin like liquid chrome, feathers, tentacles, crystalline spines. A floating audience of thousands, all laughing. Some roared, some vibrated, others emitted pheromonal bursts that made humans watching sneeze. At the center of the stage stood a creature with an elongated head and a translucent veil of bioluminescence, speaking in perfect, sarcastic English. "Welcome, newcomers, to the intergalactic roast hour." The crowd howled. Behind the host, a projection appeared. Earth, spinning slowly, its atmosphere glowing blue. Applause erupted like a solar flare. Look at them, still using combustion to move metal boxes around. Primitive monkeys who figured out TikTok before they cured cancer. Their largest achievement in orbital construction. A space station the size of a school bus. Oh, and their species leaders still argue about imaginary lines on dirt. The audience cackled. Some fell from their floating chairs, wheezing in frequencies that shattered low-grade glass back on Earth. They call their home the solar system, the host continued. Adorable. As if their sun is relevant to anything but their own extinction countdown. Cut to a clip. Earth politicians arguing about climate change. Then a rocket exploding on launch. Then a TikTok dance on the International Space Station. Laughter exploded again. Across Earth, people froze. Some screamed. Some wept. Others laughed in stunned disbelief. Governments tried jamming the signal. No effect. Astronomers traced the origin to a relay station at the edge of the Orion Arm, a location so distant the signal had to be bouncing through a network far beyond human comprehension. The final blow came when the broadcast ended with Earth's ranking in a segment titled Top 10 Dumbest Emerging Civilizations. Earth was number 1. Beneath them, the slug-like Ku, who thought faster movement made time go backward. The Greel, who blew up their atmosphere while trying to terraform their moon. And the Threen, who invented FTL travel but forgot to account for gravity wells and ended up lost in a black hole for a decade. The feed cut off. Silence swept Earth. Then the rage came. Protests erupted. Scientists ranted on live TV. Conspiracy theorists blamed global elites, aliens, and mind control. Some nations called for war, others for surrender. But amid the noise, in a dark university lab in Iceland, one woman simply whispered, "Let them laugh." Her name was Dr. Kiera Lynn, solar physicist, fired from NASA for unsafe experimentation. Her reputation tarnished, her ideas too big for a cautious world. She smiled as the stars mocked Earth. They didn't know what humans were willing to do. They didn't know what she was about to build. The lab was a freezing cavern carved into a basalt ridge on the edge of the Vatnajökull Glacier. No plaques, no government seals, just steel doors, whirring servers, and a view of endless ice. Dr. Kira Lynn stood alone in the dim glow of her workstation, lines of solar telemetry reflecting in her glasses. She didn't laugh when Earth became the galaxy's favorite joke. She didn't cry either. Kira didn't feel much at all anymore, except one thing: focus. Her fingers moved like clockwork as she pulled up an archived simulation. It was labeled Project Erebos, a name that hadn't been spoken aloud since the day it was killed by 5 different government agencies, who called it absurd, dangerous, and psychotically irresponsible. But the data still lived. And now, so did the motive. The project had been simple in theory: use a high-velocity delivery system to inject a quantum-entangled warhead directly into the sun's photosphere. The warhead, she theorized, would induce a chain reaction of microsingularities, ripping through fusion zones and causing a controlled solar resonance shift. The sun wouldn't explode. It wouldn't even flare. It would blink. Just once, for less than a second. Enough for the entire quadrant to notice. Enough for every species that laughed at Earth to realize something. These primitive monkeys had found a way to poke their own star, and survived. The files were still intact: engine specs, warhead math, solar behavior models, everything except funding, approval, and a willing launch platform. But Kira knew something Earth's leaders didn't. The moment that broadcast hit every screen on the planet, everything changed. Embassies were burned. Billionaires begged for private rockets. Countries that hadn't spoken in decades were suddenly exchanging encrypted signals. Humiliation had a way of simplifying politics. So she made a call. 3 hours later, in an abandoned underwater data node in the North Pacific, a Black Ops AI called NEPHILM blinked awake. "Dr. Lin," it said in a voice like submerged ice, "I calculate a 92% probability you are here to revive Erebos." Kira nodded. "And if I said yes?" The AI paused. "I would unlock global satellite grids, redirect orbital haulers from Mars, and requisition weaponized matter conversion systems from 5 scrapped moon bases." Kira smiled. She didn't need Earth's permission. She needed Earth's fury. And that part was easy now. Within days, a coalition formed in the shadows. Physicists from France, engineers from India, rogue fusion techs from exiled Chinese labs. A Martian mining crew volunteered the launch rails. Former Russian military assets offered warhead casing designs. America didn't ask questions. They sent uranium. Erebos became real again. Kira stood before the assembly a week later, in a cavernous bunker beneath Greenland, as holograms of every nationless scientist shimmered around her. "They think we're nothing. They think we're unstable, emotional, reckless," she said. "They're not wrong." A murmur of agreement. "But we're also something else. We're the only species crazy enough to try this, and mad enough to survive it." She pulled up the solar map. A blinking target marked the injection point. "We don't destroy the sun. We change it. A resonance pulse that says to every sensor in the sky, Earth isn't afraid of fire." Silence followed. Then a slow nod from the oldest voice among them, a bearded engineer who had once built reactors for a war no one talked about anymore. "When do we launch?" Kira looked up. "In 3 years." They didn't know if they'd survive it. They didn't care. The galaxy had laughed. But soon, they'd see what humans did when backed into a corner, when mocked, ridiculed, and dismissed. They didn't conquer the stars. They reached into their sun and pulled the trigger. The world was no longer the same. The broadcast had shattered illusions, but what followed was something more extraordinary. An uneasy truce forged in the fire of shared humiliation. Governments that once bickered over scraps of land and resources now funneled billions into a single goal: Project Erebos. In the dead of night, on the dark side of the moon, construction began. A sprawling network of factories, launch facilities, and assembly bays rose from regolith and ice, sculpted by robotic arms that never slept. Here, Humanity's wildest dreams and most dangerous nightmares collided. At the center of this lunar metropolis was the Harpoon, a launch cannon so massive it swallowed the horizon. Stretching 100 kilometers along the lunar surface, it was designed to fire a payload at unimaginable velocity, piercing the sun's corona without disintegrating. Engineers argued over every inch. Materials melted under the stress of simulations. Quantum models crashed into the limits of human understanding. On Earth, oceans were drained, deserts transformed into mining fields, and rare elements, platinum, iridium, osmium, were stripped from the crust to fuel the project. The atmosphere was thick with tension and desperation. Millions worked in silence, knowing that failure meant not just their deaths, but the death of hope itself. At the heart of the effort was Dr. Kira Lin, who had become both leader and symbol of this new age of madness. She navigated political tempests and scientific dead ends alike. Meetings with reluctant world leaders, back-channel negotiations with rogue Martian colonies, and endless nights adjusting the warhead's quantum algorithms. The pressure was crushing. And yet, beneath it all, a current of excitement pulsed. "This is our last chance," Kira told her closest team during a briefing. "They don't believe we can touch the sun, but we're going to prove them wrong." Her team consisted of the best minds Earth could offer. Dr. Raj Patel, an Indian fusion specialist with nerves of steel. Lena Voronova, a former Russian cosmonaut turned orbital engineer. And Ayumu Takahashi, a quantum physicist who designed the warhead's entanglement fields. They pored over blueprints in zero-G, rehearsed launch sequences in virtual simulators, and ran countless diagnostics on the Harpoon's rail system. Every bolt, every laser alignment, every microsecond of timing had to be perfect. Meanwhile, the warhead itself took shape. A sleek, needle-like vessel, it was a marvel of condensed power. Fusion cores stacked like diamonds, antimatter containment fields shimmering with impossible energy, and quantum processors designed to trigger the sun's resonance. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a message, a brutal poem written in the language of stars. Public opinion was fractured. On Earth, some hailed the project as the dawn of human greatness. Others condemned it as reckless hubris that would bring doom. Secretly, many governments prepared contingency plans for evacuation or surrender, unwilling to admit that humanity's last hope might lie in nuclear fire. Then came the unexpected challenge: the orbital launch platforms. To aim the Harpoon with precision, massive orbital scaffolds had to be constructed, giant spaceborne tripods holding sensors and laser arrays. These platforms were vulnerable, expensive, and built in haste. Satellite constellations monitored every movement. Rogue factions launched cyberattacks. Yet the teams pushed through sabotage, setbacks, and exhaustion. One night, as Kiera stared out at the lunar horizon lit by Earthrise, she heard the soft chime of an incoming encrypted message. It was from an unknown sender, a single line of text. "Stop this madness. You don't understand what you're playing with." She smiled grimly. "We're not afraid." Because humanity was already playing with fire, and soon, the galaxy would feel the heat. The countdown had begun. Deep in Earth's orbit, the Erebos Harpoon lay coiled like a sleeping giant, its rails stretching toward the stars. Around it, the orbital platforms hummed, their sensors calibrated with deadly precision. Every system was go. Every engineer's heartbeat synced to the rhythm of impending doom. But beyond Earth's fragile bubble, the galaxy was watching, and not quietly. The first sign came as a ripple across the galactic network, an encrypted broadcast, unauthorized, leaked by a shadow faction within the Varn Dominion. The same Varn species that had laughed at Earth. The footage was crude, glitches and distortion, but unmistakable. Images of the Erebos Harpoon assembly, lunar factories glowing under the dark sky, blueprints of the quantum warhead. The message was clear. Earth was building a weapon capable of touching its own sun. The reaction was immediate. Galactic news feeds exploded. Alien species debated, argued, threatened. The Concord, the galaxy's ruling body, called emergency sessions. Diplomats scrambled to open channels with Earth. The Varn Dominion issued sarcastic warnings. Don't poke the beast, little apes. But Earth didn't back down. Instead, the Soul Accord, the new coalition of Earth's remaining powers, issued a broadcast of their own. A simple message, a single line, transmitted across every known frequency in the quadrant. You laughed. Now watch. The galaxy was stunned. Back on Earth, humanity held its breath. On the Varn homeworld, the ruling council was in uproar. Their laughing stars had suddenly dimmed. The Galactic Concord feared a destabilization that could ripple through light years. Then came the cyberattacks. Not from Earth, but against it. A wave of hacking attempts targeted the orbital platforms. They came from unknown sources, sophisticated and relentless. Sabotage threatened to cripple Erebos before it could even launch. But humanity's defense was as fierce as its ambition. The AINEPHIL had evolved, predicting attacks before they happened, rerouting power, isolating compromised systems. The orbital platforms became fortresses in the void, shielded by firewalls and kinetic interceptors. The tension ratcheted higher. Inside the Soul Accord war room, Kira Lynn stood before a holographic sun map, fingers tracing the injection point. Her eyes were sharp, but tired. Around her, generals and scientists argued over protocols, contingencies, and risks. They'll try to stop us, Kira said. The Concord won't let this happen quietly. A general scoffed. Then we fight. No, Kira replied. We show them we don't need to. This isn't about war. It's about survival. The plan was to fire the warhead at exactly 1423 UTC, a moment chosen for maximum solar activity, a perfect time to mask the pulse's initial signal. As the launch window approached, the galaxy tuned in. Galactic hubs, starships, and planets alike awaited the event that would either prove Earth's madness or its genius. Then the moment came. The railgun ignited with a deafening roar that echoed through the vacuum. An impossibility, but Earth's orbital sensors felt it as a shockwave. The warhead accelerated, a silver needle hurtling toward the sun at a fraction of light speed. Silence fell across the galaxy. For 3 agonizing minutes, the sun appeared to burn normally. Then, a flicker, a pulse, a heartbeat. The sun's corona shimmered with unnatural rhythm, an artificial cadence that rippled through solar flares and radiation belts. Space telescopes detected a resonance wave, encoded with prime number sequences and complex signals, an unmistakable sign of intelligence. Galactic observers gasped. The pulse wasn't destruction. It was communication, a warning, a declaration. Earth had touched its sun and sent a message loud enough for the entire galaxy to hear. The moment the warhead pierced the sun's corona, everything changed. From Earth's command centers to alien observation posts light years away, eyes fixed on the star. The pulse rippled outward, a pattern of rhythmic beats unlike anything natural. It was a language, numbers, sequences, and codes, an unmistakable signature of intelligence daring the galaxy to listen. Back on Earth, the tension was nearly unbearable. Scientists held their breath as monitors displayed solar data in real time. The resonance frequency, previously theoretical, matched perfectly. The sun was not just alive. It was speaking with humanity. Across the galaxy, the Varn Dominion's laughter was gone, replaced by shock and uncertainty. Their once smug smugness gave way to a frantic scramble. Ships were dispatched to investigate, diplomatic channels buzzed with warnings, and the Galactic Concord convened an emergency council. But Earth had no intention of hiding. Dr. Kira Lynn appeared live on every Earth frequency, her face calm but fierce. "We did not destroy the sun," she said. "We did not cause chaos. We have changed the conversation. Our sun is now a beacon, a warning, and an invitation. The universe will listen, because we are no longer the species you mocked. The pulse continued, its message repeating like a heartbeat. In it lay a challenge, a proof of human ingenuity, resilience, and unyielding spirit. Alien scientists struggled to decode the signal. Some called it a cosmic Morse code. Others likened it to a musical symphony of physics. But the meaning was clear. Earth was no longer a joke. It was a power. But the ripple of consequences spread fast. Systems on the galactic rim debated preemptive strikes. Mercenary fleets took new contracts to watch Earth's movement. Theories emerged. Had Earth weaponized its star? Was the sun a ticking time bomb? Inside Earth's war rooms, generals prepared for retaliation. But Kiera, ever the voice of reason, refused to escalate. "We don't want war," she said. "We want respect. We want a seat at the table." And the galaxy listened. The pulse carried more than a threat. It contained coordinates to Earth's research data, blueprints for Erebos, and an open invitation to anyone willing to learn. For the first time, the galaxy saw humans not as failures or cosmic jokes, but as fierce survivors, dangerous because they refused to yield. Weeks passed, and something unexpected happened. Alien scientists sent emissaries, not armies. Curious diplomats arrived, cloaked in technology and wary smiles. Questions replaced insults. The laughter was gone. Earth had nuked its sun, not out of madness or desperation, but to announce its arrival. The galaxy was awake, and humanity was ready. The galaxy's silence after the pulse was almost deafening. Earth had spoken in a language only stars could hear, and the response was slow but unmistakable. At first, it was cautious curiosity. Alien envoys, cloaked in shimmering arrays of bioengineered armor, touched down on Earth's surface, their features obscured but their intent clear. They came bearing gifts of knowledge, fusion techniques, faster-than-light navigation tips, and warnings about the dangers of stellar manipulation. Humanity welcomed them with wary eyes but open hands. After centuries of isolation, the unexpected visitors were a puzzle and an opportunity. In the great halls of the United Nations, now transformed into the Sol Accord headquarters, diplomats and scientists worked side by side. Language barriers melted away as translators and AI bridged the gulf between species. The galaxy was no longer a distant dream. It was a sprawling neighborhood. Dr. Kiera Lin, once an outcast, now stood as the architect of this new era. Her project, once dismissed as folly, had turned Earth from a punchline into a player. Yet, despite the newfound respect, Kiera knew the stakes had never been higher. The sun's pulse was just the beginning, she told the council. Our signal echoed a warning. We have fire, and we will use it. Fire was more than solar manipulation. It was the spirit of humanity, forged in adversity. It was the defiance that had driven humans to master nuclear fusion, quantum mechanics, and interstellar engineering all in a single decade. But not everyone embraced the change. Hardliners on Earth whispered of alien infiltration, of betrayal by those who came with smiles but hid claws. Across the stars, xenophobic factions eyed Earth warily, suspicious of the fiery newcomers. The Varn Dominion, bruised but unbroken, plotted retaliation in secret. Their leaders understood that Earth's warhead was not just a weapon, but a beacon, an announcement of humanity's arrival as a force to be reckoned with. In the dark corridors of Varn warships, a plan was born. Strike first. Crush the newborn power before it could grow. But Earth was ready. Under Kiera's guidance, the Sol Accord accelerated its space defense initiatives. Orbital platforms now bristled with laser arrays and kinetic interceptors. Fleets of human-built starships launched into orbit, armed with electromagnetic pulse weapons and quantum shields. And in the laboratories, scientists worked feverishly to improve the warhead design, turning it from a message into a deterrent, a weapon not for aggression but for survival. The next few months were a tense dance of diplomacy and preparation. Alien ambassadors walked a fine line between cautious alliance and veiled threats. Earth's leaders balanced pride with pragmatism, knowing the galaxy could tip into chaos at any moment. Amid it all, Kira found herself looking up at the sun more often. It no longer burned as a silent star. Its resonance pulsed gently now, like a heartbeat in tune with Earth's own. Humanity had ignited a new dawn, one forged in fire and resilience. The galaxy had noticed, and no one would forget. Beneath the polished diplomacy and glowing promises of peace, shadows stirred. In the vast reaches beyond Sol's influence, the Varn Dominion's War Council convened. Their once confident laughter had faded into grim resolve. Earth's defiant pulse had exposed a vulnerability in their grip on galactic power, a challenge they could not ignore. "Destroy the threat before it grows," hissed Admiral Karath, his many eyes gleaming with cold fire. The humans wield fire, yes, but they are untested. They burn brightly and quickly. The Council agreed. A fleet was dispatched, cloaked, silent, and deadly. On Earth, the Sol Accord's sensors detected the subtle shadows of ships slipping past patrol zones. The new starships, while formidable, were few. The Varn strike fleet was swift and stealthy. Dr. Kira Lin watched the unfolding threat from the command bridge of the orbital station Aegis Prime, her hands clenched around the railing. "They don't understand," she muttered. "We're not just survivors. We're warriors." The strike came without warning. Varn vessels surged through the void, launching coordinated EMP barrages and kinetic missiles aimed at crippling Earth's orbital defenses. Alarms screamed. Orbital platforms shook under impact, their shields flaring bright as desperate crews scrambled. But humanity was ready. The orbital fleet responded with precision fire, plasma beams slicing through Varn cloaking fields, and electronic countermeasures jamming their targeting systems. Starship pilots, many veterans of Martian skirmishes and asteroid belt raids, maneuvered with fierce determination. The battle was brutal but short. Despite the Varn's speed and surprise, the humans' resolve held firm. They repelled the strike, crippling several enemy ships and forcing the rest into retreat. Victory was not without cost. The orbital platforms suffered damage, and dozens of brave souls were lost. But the message was clear. Earth fought back. In the aftermath, Kira convened a council meeting. "This was just the opening move," she warned. "The galaxy will test us. They will try to break us." Her gaze swept across the faces, scientists, generals, diplomats, all weary but unbowed. "We must evolve, not just in technology, but in unity." The sun's pulse was a declaration. Now we defend that declaration. Meanwhile, on the Varn homeworld, dissent brewed. Some factions argued for peace, wary of escalating a war that could consume their entire sector. Others, fueled by pride and fear, demanded harsher measures. Back on Earth, whispers of internal dissent grew as well. Hardliners pushed for preemptive strikes, seeing war as inevitable. Others pleaded for renewed diplomacy. Kira stood between these forces, knowing the next decisions would define humanity's fate. In the quiet moments before dawn, she stared once more at the sun, the fire that had brought Earth to the galaxy's attention. The war had begun, and humanity would not go quietly. The war that no one wanted had begun in earnest, but it was unlike any conflict the galaxy had ever seen. It was not just a battle of ships and weapons. It was a battle for respect, for survival, for identity. Earth's skies blazed with streaks of light as starships clashed in orbit and beyond. The Sol Accord's defenses, forged in desperation and unity, fought with a ferocity born of centuries of survival against odds. Every soldier, pilot, and scientist understood the stakes. The future of humanity depended on this fight. Dr. Kira Lin stood on the bridge of the flagship Prometheus, her eyes locked on the tactical displays. The Varn strike fleet had regrouped for a massive assault. The countdown to the engagement was ticking. "This is it," she said quietly. "They want to snuff out our flame before it spreads. But they don't know what fire really is." The battle erupted like a supernova. Plasma beams tore through the darkness, shields shimmered and shattered, and missiles streaked with deadly precision. The Prometheus led the defense, coordinating a dance of destruction and survival. But humanity's greatest weapon was something no technology could replicate: their indomitable spirit. Pilots fought with reckless courage, engineers repaired systems against impossible odds, and diplomats sent last-minute pleas for ceasefire that went unanswered. As the fight reached its crescendo, a brilliant pulse radiated from the sun. It was a reminder. The resonance Kira had sparked was still alive, a constant heartbeat that bound Earth and its star. On the bridge, Kira activated the next phase of the plan: the upgraded warhead. Unlike the first, this one was designed not just to send a message, but to protect. Its resonance would create a solar shield, a sphere of energy that could absorb or deflect incoming attacks. The warhead launched into the sun's corona, vanishing into its fiery embrace. Moments later, the solar shield bloomed, a shimmering barrier that flickered like liquid light, an ethereal wall protecting the blue planet below. The Varn fleet faltered, their weapons disrupted and neutralized. The tide turned. In the quiet that followed, transmissions flooded in, not just from Earth, but from unexpected corners of the galaxy. Species long neutral or hostile reached out. Some offered alliance, others offered trade, all recognizing that a new era was dawning. Kira Lin addressed the galaxy once more, her voice steady and resolute. Earth is no longer a joke. We have faced fire and emerged stronger. The pulse of our sun is the pulse of humanity, wild, fierce, and eternal. Let this be the dawn of a new era, where survival is not just a hope, but a promise. The galaxy listened. The echoes of humanity's defiance rippled outward, carried on solar winds, and whispered across star systems. And Earth, once laughed at and dismissed, stood ready, not just to survive, but to lead.